Hey there, I'm Ryan J, and we are live on Facebook and YouTube. And I'm so excited because I'm being joined by Christopher Jackson, star of Broadway, TV, film, and a man of so many talents. I am very excited, almost shaking to be chatting with him this morning. He's going to be in town this Friday, May 3rd, headlining the Marcus Performing Arts Center's 19th annual Bash. It's an evening that celebrates the arts with amazing food and entertainment, honorary award presentations. There are going to be these food stations that represent the upcoming Broadway national tour, including Wicked and Chicago, our dance series coming up at the Marcus Center. And it's all raising support for arts education, which provides access to the performing arts to over 10,000 kids each year. Last year, I had the honor of emceeing, and I'm excited to attend this year because in addition to all that, we're going to be getting an incredible live concert. Christopher Jackson is a Tony Award nominated performer for originating the role of George Washington in Broadway's Hamilton, for which he also won the Grammy Award for Best Musical Theater Album. He also won an Emmy for penning an outstanding original song for Sesame Street in 2011. Christopher was the original Benny in Broadway's In the Heights and also made a cameo appearance in the film adaptation directed by John M. Chu. His many other Broadway credits include playing Simba in The Lion King, and his Disney cred extends as the singing voice of Chief Tui in Moana. Among his many film and TV appearances, most recently, you can see him bringing the man candy on HBO Max's Sex and the City reboot and Just Like That. He is a man of many impressive talents, and Milwaukee will be delighted to see his solo concert this Friday at the Bash. So why don't you join us? Tickets are available right now at marcuscenter.org/bash. Let's add him to the stage. Christopher, welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
So thrilled that you're here. Have you ever been to Milwaukee before?
One time.
Yeah.
One time. I appeared at a function at the Kohler. I don't know what the right word. The Kohler area up there. Yeah. The company town, as it were. And the next day, I had a 7-hour, what ended up being a 7-hour layover. So I was downtown for 7 hours in the middle of a rainstorm. It was amazing. It's a beautiful downtown area. I walked all over the place. I just kind of made the most of it and just, spent a lot of time hanging out down there. But no, I'm looking forward to spending a few days there. And of course, the show.
Mm-hmm. And we're not too far from where you grew up because you originate, as I like to use the word, since you're a Broadway star, in Illinois.
Yeah, Southern Illinois, Cairo, Illinois. Any of you Mark Twain fans out there? That's the town that Jim is anxious to get to in Tom Sawyer. Or Huckleberry, excuse me.
And how much of a role did your mom, being a voice teacher, play in you beginning to sing?
Well, my mom wasn't a voice teacher, but she was my accompanist. She plays the piano.
Okay.
So I up until moving to New York, no one had ever played for me other than my mom my entire life. It played a huge role. One in that our bond was always, obviously mother and son, but we had a musical relationship too, which is unique and fun, and it's thriving even now.
And you were a part of the arts because you went to after graduating high school, you went out to New York and did dramatic arts there for your college career. But what role did arts education play in your youth?
I began playing in the band in 4th grade. I played trumpet, and all through high school, every day, the first period of my high school was always band. So we were playing trumpet. I was playing trumpet at 7:35 every single day that we had school. It was a huge influence. When you're, being the father of 2 teenagers, I'm reacquainted with the idea that, language is tough for a teenager with all of those hormones and all of those emotions and everything constantly just sort of coursing through, all of these ideas and thoughts coursing through your veins. Music offers a means of expression. It did for me, even when I wasn't aware that it was just sort of taking the pressure cook, the lid off the pressure cooker a little bit and allowing me to feel and experience emotions that I didn't have an opportunity to express throughout the ins and outs of every day. It was hugely important.
Mm-hmm. And why do you think today it's important for people to invest in arts education and having that community engagement where students that might not otherwise have access to seeing the performing arts getting that access?
Well, I grew up in what I call a theater desert. There was one theater, I'm sorry, two theaters, but both were over an hour's drive away. And so theater wasn't really a part of my everyday life. And so, you know, we know the studies show, the studies that have been done throughout, modern time, is that children who experience the arts grow up more well-rounded. They grow up more curious. They grow up being able to process so much better. You can go down the list of the things that are sort of the points that you could quote, but the reality is that artists grow citizens because artists grow community, and artists foster curiosity and discovery. In a world where you're competing now with the phone and the computer and the streaming and all of the different ways that we consume the world, art requires that you step away from that, right? For the most part, it requires that you engage. And I think in any community that fosters a robust arts program benefits from that curiosity and from that need to discover and that need to collaborate. All of the things that make great art great is inside of the collaboration.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. And it does. I just think storytelling that way too builds empathy. And I know for me, I grew up in Milwaukee, lived in New York for many years, back here now, but I see with students, and also growing up for me, having the access to the arts was a lifesaver, a lifeline for those of us, I think, that aren't, maybe in the sports communities and the rest of it. So it's really something that can absolutely benefit not only the kids involved, but the whole community. What was your dream role growing up?
Oh man, I studying musical theater. Every role felt like, at 19, I wanted to play every single role imaginable. But I always say that my dream role is the role that I'm going to play next. It really is. The only way to discover, I think, something new is to grab a hold of something that hasn't been done before. It's been my real. It's been a real blessing for me to be able to originate roles, to be more than anything to start, like for instance with the work that I've done with Lynn. It's to start at the ground level. It's to start when things are bubbling, when Lynn's ideas are just sort of crackling, and to be in the room. Sometimes simply singing the notes and saying words informs so much of what that process is, and to be trusted with walking in the room and knowing that you're going to approach all of the material with honesty and with the sense of what do we get to discover today about it. I think it just, it's unlike any other experience in the world in terms of what we do, and the world of theater and the world. It gives you an opportunity to make your mark simply by collaborating with those who are writing it. It's pretty incredible.
I kind of stopped listening to everything that you just said after you're like Lynn. To be on that, like that name basis, like working with Lin-Manuel Miranda, of course.
Heard of him, yeah.
Right. At what point you obviously you did In the Heights, Benny. So at what point were you involved with, as you knew he was working on Hamilton? And I guess I imagine, were you George Washington from the very early workshop readings?
I was George Washington before the workshops. I was George Washington once he and Tommy kind of figured out what they were going to do. Lynn and I were actually on stage doing a performance of In the Heights when he told me about it. When he told me he had this idea. I've got this idea. It's a concept album, a hip hop concept album about the Treasury Secretary. And then off we go into the next number that we were doing. And I just kind of like through the whole time, the rest of the show, I was like, what in the hell was he talking about? What? And then, several days later, Tommy Kail walks up to me pre-show and says, "Hey, G-Dubs." I'm like, "What? G-Dubs? What are you talking about?" "George Washington. Lynn didn't tell you?" I said, "No." Still putting things together, two and two together. But yeah, it was pretty much from the beginning. I never had to audition for it, thankfully.
Oh.
It was a very interesting time. It was a
Mhm.
very interesting time
I
to
imagine.
be able to say, yeah, I was there, but also I had no clue. None of us did that
No, I mean, you
it was
can't
gonna become the
really.
phenomenon it
Right,
became.
yeah, there's always that question of, because if anyone knew while working on a project that it was going to become what Hamilton becomes, what Wicked becomes,
Yeah,
what any of these juggernaut shows become, everybody would just do that, obviously. So it's just, you just
sure.
go where the passion leads you and surround yourself with
Yeah.
incredible people like Lin-Manuel Miranda. Can you share with me, though, what was it like being on the set with John M. Chu when you did the film version of In the Heights?
It was like candy.
Yeah.
The thing that, I'm sure that most people don't know is that, Lynn is, he and I have performed thousands of shows together between In the Heights and Hamilton, but also with Freestyle Love Supreme. While Lynn was busy in the years that he was developing In the Heights, we traveled the world doing hip hop improv shows. Literally traveled the world. And so um, the level of trust that exists, not just on the friendship level, but from a performer level, which is a completely different thing, um, is unlike anything that I've experienced. And there's not a person on the planet that I trust more uh, than Lynn. We know how to play together, and so it's when I think of Lynn, I really do think of him in that collaborative sense. So when we got on set, I'd been shooting this series on CBS, and when you're shooting the TV, an episodic especially, you're buried on a soundstage in the middle of some neighborhood, and you don't get to see your friends, and you don't get to talk very often. And he was on a rocket ship post Hamilton, and I was certainly on a rocket ship, and um, it was just nice to like have a day off from that show to go hang out with my friends, and we're gonna just be stupid together, and somebody's filming it. It was candy. It was absolute candy,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought John captured it really, really well.
He is the man who's doing movie musicals right now. Honestly, I'm excited to see.
Yeah,
He's going to
well,
Broadway then,
he's brilliant.
right? He really
Yeah.
is. And he just recently announced that he's developing a musical version headed toward Broadway of Crazy Rich Asians, his film. So that's
Okay.
exciting. You get to see him play in the
Good.
stage area, which I think is
Yes.
really smart. So,
Yep.
okay, let's
He
talk
can do
about.
it.
Yeah, you're going to be doing this great solo concert, and obviously, I fell down the rabbit hole of looking up videos of you in concert, and I love that I saw you sing Beyonce's "Listen" from Dreamgirls, and
Oh yeah.
a million songs. Can you give us a tease of what we're going to see for your concert here at the Bash this Friday night?
I like to, I certainly like to include, the shows that I've been a part of. I love, being able to play with the context. When you sing a song from a show, you're doing so without the context of the show. But I've been a part of some pretty big shows. I've always been excited about that. I have. I also like to dabble in the things that have influenced me, and that's gonna veer, through the world of the American Songbook, the standards. Also pop music has a huge influence. Pop and soul music have a huge influence on my life, and honestly, since I've been on Broadway from the first show with Lion King, the Elton John influenced music, the music of Stevie Wonder, the music of Donny Hathaway, the things that have kind of fueled my progression as an artist and as a singer. The influences that have really kind of leaned into every note that I've ever sung on a Broadway stage. It's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to kind of shed the costumes and shed the scenery of some of these shows, and to just allow the music to kind of come front and center.
Right.
And it's for such a wonderful cause, as you well know. Anything that is a celebration of community, anything that is a celebration, especially of children. I've spent a tremendous amount of my career working in the children's, TV space, and writing music and composing, and I just get a huge kick out of being able to interact with young kids who are still figuring it out, and are not lost to cynicism, and that are just there for collaboration and discovery is exciting to me.
Mm-hmm. Sherry Williams-Roan, who's on the national tour right now of Tina, the Tina Turner musical, which just wrapped playing here at the Marcus Performing Arts Center. She is from our hometown in Milwaukee, and she talked about as a child sitting in the audience at the Marcus Performing Arts Center in front of the stage that you're going to be performing at, back when she was a child, seeing the first show that she ever saw, and that's what, you know, lit the spark for her. So, you know, many of, those of you, I was going to say I'm adjacent to the arts. I like to describe myself as celebrity adjacent. You know, I like to showcase those who do
I got you. I
love it so much, you know? And so, you know, but to hear the stories of those of you who actually, you know, this is where you witnessed something or experienced something. And by raising the funds, as Marcus Center does at the Bash, you never know then when those funds are put to good use in the community, these children are witnessing the arts, that they will one day have the story of, it was at that moment that it inspired me to become, you know, the next Lin-Manuel Miranda or Christopher Jackson, right? Cheyenne Jackson was here last year with us, and he did what you're doing, which was performing live with some local students. This year, you're performing with students from Regan and Riverside High Schools, along with Ryan Kappelman, another great local artist, choreographer. Have you performed before with students, and what are you looking forward to with them joining you on stage?
I have performed. I've been fortunate enough to perform with students. I got to tell you, like, you're never gonna find a more enthusiastic partnership than to partner with kids who are already leaning into the arts, who have already found the joy in standing on stage and telling a story through song, or telling a story through a show. That's where the magic happens. I grew up performing, in little plays we do at our church. We didn't have a theater program where I lived, and most of the music scene was devoted to country music or singing in church choirs and things like that. So, for me, I imagine myself, my 17-year-old self, being able to stand on stage with a pro and watching every single thing that they would do. It takes me back to when I was that age, and knowing how profound just sharing the same space can be. I didn't really appreciate that a life in the arts or a life on Broadway was even possible until I saw my first Broadway show, which was Crazy for You, and Harry Groner was in it. And I was sitting in the front row of the mezzanine, and I'm watching all of this, and it's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And then afterwards, we got to go do a Q&A. And so all of these people come walking out in street clothes, with a hoodie and a backpack, and they just did a show, and they're, and I thought, it wasn't until that moment that I said, oh, okay, I can do it now. I can do this. I can do this. I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know what, but I can do it. And that set me on a course. And 4 years later, I was standing on a Broadway stage.
Unbelievable. We have to talk about this one moment, because you gave me that thrill of a lifetime, I guess, right? When I'm a fan of And Just Like That, looking forward to the next season. And it's a great,
Me too.
Right? Yeah. And it's got to be a lot of fun getting in the sandbox with Nicole Ari Parker. I've been a fan of hers for a long time. But that one episode last season, and I get screeners because I review, and I'm part of the Critics' Choice Association, do film and TV. And so I see them in advance of when I can talk about them with my friends, And so there's this one episode, the Halloween episode, and this happens. And I shout, I'm screaming at the TV the way the straight
oh my God,
watching football. You know what I mean? I was like so excited. Tell me about the behind the scenes conversation for the Halloween episode. And they're like, Chris, here's our idea.
Michael Patrick King is a genius. Yes. He is. The man comes to me and says, we have your Halloween costume picked out. I was like, oh, this is before I've seen the script. I was like, oh really? Okay. He's like, you've worn it before. And I thought, oh, Jesus, I know what's about to happen. So the first thing I thought was, God, I hope the costume fits, right? Because, COVID happened since I was in that show. No, I have to say, like, it's going to sound so cheesy. It really is. I'm almost afraid to say it, but I put on that coat and my body reacted in a completely different way. Like, I put on that part of that costume, and it's just it's one of those things. Like, I instantly went back to what my process was for putting it on for the show. I instantly felt different. My posture changed. My that innate sense of controlled rage, kind of like, this is all happening in seconds. All of those things that were very much a part of that experience for me came back, and I was overwhelmed. I really was. Like, it took me a moment. I needed to, like, go stand in the corner for a second, because
Yeah.
that period in my life meant so much to me, and still does, that the weight of responsibility that I wore in those clothes was very real to me, and it remains so. Um, and then once I kind of, like, let that wash over, then it was all about the gag. Because, I
Yeah.
mean, Jesus, a powdered wig. Come on.
Yes.
Right?
That was
You know,
hilarious.
yeah. Everything on that set is so much fun, and everyone is so generous. There's no moments of, like, attitude. There's no moments of showboating. It really is always about the best idea wins. It's real trust in the creative team, who are so invested and so supportive. It's been the most fun I've had on a set,
Really?
and continues to be. So yeah, because Nicole Laurie Parker is brilliant, and she's crazy in, like, the best possible way.
Yeah.
It's sometimes difficult to pretend that we're husband and wife, because all we do is cackle. It's a kiki from the moment that I show up on stage. That's it. We just have a nonstop giggling session the entire time. Then we go say our lines, and then we go back to being silly. But she's such a brilliant partner, and someone that I just admire so deeply.
Oh.
So yeah, we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun.
It's magnificent. Well, and I can just tell,
Yeah.
hearing you share that story, I look forward to hearing more of your stories and behind the scenes experiences as you interweave it or weave it throughout your songs that you're sharing with us. Christopher, thank you so much for joining us. I want to let everyone know that you are on Instagram at cjack930, so follow him there, and don't miss the chance to see him. There are tickets that are available to the full event. If you want to come for the dinner and the awards presentation and the fundraising and all the other surprises and fun, please do. You can also get a ticket to just see Christopher Jackson's part of the concert, which is not to be missed. So one way or the other, I hope to see you there. I'm going to be there. Cannot wait. Tickets are available at marcuscenter.org/bash. And we look forward to it this Friday. Christopher, thank you so much.
See you on Friday.